My name is Average Joe, and I'm a proud geek with expertise in movies, superheroes, and animation.
And my name is Pixel Patch. I'm a joyful geek with an expertise in gaming, both tabletop and video.
Our mission is to bring nerd culture to the masses.
And by sticking it all under the microscope.
Welcome to the Bat Jar Podcast.
Movies, TV, manga, comic books, or is that graphic novels, cartoons, groups, that's animation, Disney, Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, and Digimon, and Mighty Morphin, Power Rangers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Nintendo.
Hello there, and welcome to the Bat Jar Podcast, where we put nerd culture under the microscope.
And let me tell you, it's created a lot of culture recently. We've got some like I don't know, some very rare cultures in the corners, and we swabbed everything. It should be cleaned down there.
I see you're using that definition of the word culture.
Yeah. It's like well, you think about it, as gross as it is, it kind of works because it grows on itself, and it kind of builds up on what's already there. This is frightening. Nerd culture is now frightening. I'm going to go get a Kleenex.
Well, this is probably one of the only occasions where we actually slip into the role of a scientist.
Yeah.
Because today's episode is really rooted in social science and empirical evidence.
Oh, I like that.
We're talking about Excel formulas,
right? Graphs, bell curves.
I didn't build any graphs, and
okay.
I don't like bell curves, so
All right.
I'm gonna be peeling an orange here, and I'm gonna try and see if I can make it so that you guys can't hear it. So
we'll find out in post. We'll edit it in post.
No. I'm not gonna edit it because I want the experience. If they think I'm having an orange, to actually sound.
I
like
also
orange.
am peeling an orange. See if you can tell which one of us is actually having an orange. We'll cover the telltale signs in a Wilhelm scream.
You can have an orange if you want.
Yeah, I'll go for that. Early morning.
He is actually quite literally eating an orange now.
Or am I? The magic of radio.
Right, yeah, of course. So we're not going to talk about the news because this is just a very heavy topic.
Yep.
But just as a note, if anyone's wondering, Ben Affleck is officially out as Batman.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
So if you guys were looking forward to his next visit to Gotham City, you're out of luck.
However, for Justice League next movie, they're just not going to do another Justice League, or
it's not announced.
Oh, okay.
So we don't know.
That makes sense. Joaquin Phoenix as both the Joker and Batman
for
the first time ever.
No.
I just saw you cringe. That's great.
Okay. So we are going to be analyzing and ranking the comic book films that were released in 2018.
Booyah.
Normally, we do this episode closer to the end of the year, but as we've mentioned a couple times on the show now, we had two major comic book films get released in mid to late December. And because part of our calculation involves box office results, it was only fair to those movies to wait until that they've had the opportunity to earn a lot of their money before doing the ranking. Because if we'd done it when we normally do it, they would have ranked at the bottom purely just based on the fact that they hadn't made any money.
Yep.
And it's interesting because we've talked about this even last week when we were doing Mary Poppins, that generally the last couple of years there's been a big Star Wars movie that comes out in December.
So people are kind of hesitant, and the box office numbers are a bit thrown off.
Well, also just to say that nobody tries to open up against Star Wars. It's like, okay, that's Star Wars. December is Star Wars time, but 2018 was not the case, so there were lots of movies out in December.
Yeah, everyone rushed for it. Like, everybody throw out all the movies.
I think I added it up. It's like if I add the box offices of all the major films that came out in December 2018, it adds to over 600 million.
Wow. That's that's quite a bit. If I could have time in a bottle. All right. If I could have money in a bottle. All right, sorry.
So anyone who remembers our episode on comic book films of 2017, I introduced the Bat Jar formula,
right,
which was a 7-part formula that was essentially the way by which we determine the overall quality of something. Mm-hmm. Pixel Patch, do you remember what that formula is?
I do not. Lay it on me. Let's get this formula, and let me put on my lab coat with a swoosh.
So basically,
we edited out the swoosh.
There's 7 parts to this formula, okay? Now, a lot of websites will rank movies purely based on critic score, box office, rating on that website.
Okay.
As like the sole indicator of quality. But I would argue, and this podcast argues, that there are more than one way There are more than one way.
There are more than one ways.
There are more than one ways.
There are many ways.
There are many ways.
There you go.
To determine the quality of a movie.
There is more than one way. There we go.
Thank you.
That's the saying. It's not morning here at all, guys. What are you talking about? Go back to bed.
So we have a 7-part formula that basically tries to account for all potential areas of quality. So first of all, as I kind of mentioned already, we have domestic box office. Did the movie find an audience in North America? And when they say...
Did we find an audience in North America? That's probably important. If we're being listened to by the Chinese, that's really cool. Like, I got to figure out how we're doing that.
So this is box office results for Canada and the United States. Why Canada and the U.S. are considered like one country in that sense, I don't know.
Similar tastes, I guess. Like,
Mexico
Mexico has its own culture, as does like South America. It's a very, not completely different, but Canada and the U.S. share quite a bit.
Yeah, and these movies were made in the United States, so that is generally the intended audience. But these movies are released around the world, so the second factor is the international box office. How much money did the movie make? How large an audience did the movie generate in other parts of the world? Because
which can sometimes be very surprising.
Yes, because sometimes the films that don't do well here do great in other places. So that's the second factor. The
X factor.
The third factor is called cinema score. Do you recall what this means?
It's a set of like 5 things that give it like a score out of 5, I think.
Good guess.
Okay.
No, Cinema Score is a company in the U.S. that basically goes and does polling of people on opening day of movie theaters. And they go to random movie theaters across the United States.
That's really cool.
And they ask people who have just seen the movie to give it a letter grade.
Yeah, and they sometimes get beat up, and then they're like, oh, wait, we're not a movie theater. We're in a broken down... okay.
So why people tout Cinema Score as like an indicator of quality is that unlike...
It's random?
It's random, but also there's no way to fudge the numbers,
right?
Because you can't like log into the Cinema Score website and like with different email accounts and give the movie good or bad ratings to boost it. So
all right,
that's like it's purely empirical based on like one result per person randomized. So for that, movies get a letter score between A+ and F.
Now I'd be very curious to see movies that were considered great at launch but people ended up hating over time, like the Star Wars prequel forever, like what the cinema score would be like for that as kind of a
years later,
yeah, because it probably changes. Well, it wouldn't change, but I'm curious to see what it originally was.
Yeah, that's a good point. So cinema score really captures the feeling you have about a movie right after you've seen it, whereas some of the other things we're going to talk about, it's more retroactive. You've had more time to reflect.
Tomato meter.
So the next thing, this is part 4, is the IMDb score.
Right.
So IMDb stands for...
I feel like I need to get a pencil for this. I think I will, actually. Let me wander away.
Do you recall what the IMDb is?
IMDb is... Well, I thought that was just for actors and listing the...
Well, I meant what the acronym means.
Oh. Okay, let me see if I can mess with it.
The first one is internet. There's your first guess, or your first clue.
Internet meme database. Bonkers.
So it's Internet Movie Database.
Oh, okay.
So there is like a whole inventory of actors on there, but there's also a page for each movie where users can give it a rating out of 10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we are including the IMDb ratings for these movies into consideration.
Nice.
Part 5 is the tomato meter, which of course is the aggregating of all the critic reviews
and all the audience reviews.
No, that's a different number.
Oh, what's the audience score?
It's just called the audience score. So
what is that?
So okay, I'll answer that, but just to
I'll answer this question with another question. How many fingers am I holding up? I don't know.
So just to land the plane on the critic score. So yes, like the tomato meter is the aggregation of all of the critic reviews that are put on Rotten Tomatoes, and it represents itself as a percentage out of 100.
Okay.
The 6th, am I counting right? No, I'm not. The 5th, I don't know. Basically, the next thing that gets included in our formula is the Rotten Tomato audience score. So this is determined by users on Rotten Tomatoes logging and rating the movie themselves.
Okay.
And you can rate it out of, like I use the Flickster app
right
to rate movies out of 5 stars, and then it somehow factors into the Rotten Tomato audience score.
Okay.
So that's why I think that's one of the reasons people like Rotten Tomatoes, is because on there, for any movie, you have essentially a percentage that shows how the critics overall feel about it, and then a percentage that overall shows how the audience likes it.
Nice.
And then, people could argue this is pretty biased because it's our podcast, but it is our podcast. So each of our scores factors in as a whole point on its own.
Right.
So Average Joe's scores are so essentially the opinions of everyone on IMDb, or the opinions of all the movie critics, are worth as much as just my own opinion.
Excellent. Hey, it's our podcast. We can dance if we want to.
And the last score, it's kind of a combination of interesting. It's a bunch of different people, because on this podcast, when we've reviewed these movies, it has not always been Pixel Patch. It's been Asian John. It's been my brother Dan Hatton and my brother King Boo,
right,
all kind of being my guests those weeks. So their scores for those movies, essentially, because they were the ones on the podcast that week,
right,
their scores for the movies kind of factor in.
Now, do you do the 10th grade math thing where you find the common denominator between all the ratings? So, like, you put them all out of 100 or all out of 10?
No.
Okay.
So with all, I think that's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... Wait a minute. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 things.
There we go.
I don't know how to count.
The 8 steps to movie judgment.
Yes. So
there you have it.
So basically, this
keep track at home.
This rating system works like golf.
Right.
In other words, the higher your score is, the worse you're doing.
Okay.
And basically, what this means is that based on how all these movies did in each of these criteria, you are ranked between 1 and up to 10.
Okay, cool.
And the idea
now, rated from 1 up to 10 against themselves?
Yes. So,
okay, there you go.
So it's like you rank the box office numbers, and
nice.
Whoever has the highest box office is number 1.
That makes sense.
The lowest is number 10. So this year, we had 10 comic book films.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to turn the computer away so you can't see.
Yep, no, can't
so
see nothing.
So everyone, Pixel Patch is going to be learning about the results as we go through it. It's going to be a surprise.
With childlike wonder.
There were 10 films released this year, compared to the 14 that were released last year.
Wow. What are we slowing down in terms of comic book movies, or is it just a slow year for it? Because next year we've got Infinity War and a few things like that, and Captain
Endgame.
Marvel. And
Endgame's coming out next year.
Yeah.
Or this year. It's 2019 now.
It's 2019. It's 2015. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, there was basically a lot more limited releases. Like, technically, like Inhumans, the TV show, had its 2-hour pilot aired in theaters.
Now, does that count as a film release?
We did for the sake of it.
Okay.
And then there were a couple like animated films like Batman and Harley Quinn that got like a one-night theatrical release.
Okay, cool.
Which leads into like defining. Okay, so we are defining a comic book film as a movie that, whether it's a movie or an extended pilot of a TV show that got a theatrical showing,
right,
in the year that we're talking.
It's a comic book movie. There you go.
Yeah, so direct-to-video movies, streaming movies don't count.
Yep.
We're just like the Oscars in that sense. In order to qualify for this list, you had to have shown up in a movie theater at some point.
Even just a mom and pop for a couple days. They reported it.
And what I find fascinating is that even though there were fewer releases in 2018, the domestic box office grew by 42% for comic book films.
Holy cow! Whoa!
So I say we, but like the comic book movies of 2017 grossed just over $2.3 million, or $2.3 billion.
Okay, I was about to say 2.3 million. Wow, it's a hard year for the comic book industry.
Yeah. So they're domestically
begging for scraps in the corner.
They made 2.3 billion, and then this year they made 3.2 billion.
Wow,
so that's a growth of 42% domestically, and then foreign box office grew by 95%.
Wow.
So like
the
the box office earned by movies, comic book movies outside of Canada, US, grew by almost 100% in 2018. We had just over $5 billion worth of box office come in from the comic book films released.
I mean, that's great. That means probably more comic book movies. Although in the next 5 years, I think it's gonna slow down its increase or drop by a little bit.
Well, it's the thing. So partly why I look at these numbers is to people say, "Oh, I've been hearing for a few years now that comic book movies, superhero movies, are kind of going down, and they're
It's
not
just
as
like nope.
well, and that they're just like the fad is over, and they're not as popular." Look at the numbers.
According to the numbers, they're still going strong.
Like, just think about it. Like, in 2018, the domestic box office brought in just over $11 billion. It's a record-breaking year, more money than they've ever made. Of that 11, 3.2 of it was just these 10 comic book films.
Ouch. All right, yeah, that's
that's crazy, isn't it?
That's bringing people out.
We should
So there you have it, folks. Comic book movies are not dying.
Yes.
They are well alive.
Take
alive
that.
and kicking, and they kicked me in the shins.
We should also take this point to clarify that there are movies that came out in 2018 that featured comic book characters or superheroes, like Ready Player One and Ralph Breaks the Internet, that will not be on this list because they're not based on a comic book or draw very clear inspiration from comic books.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for those movies,
you can do the test at home, guys. You have all the 8 methods, so
that's true. Yeah, you can
grab an Excel sheet, sit down, and crunch those numbers. Dang it!
There's actually a lot of the metrics that wherein there wasn't an equal like first place to 10th place. Like there were actually a lot of ties.
Oh, interesting. Okay, was there a lot of ties in the back cookie score?
Yes.
Okay, I could see that happening.
Yeah, so the absolute highest / worst score a movie could have gotten this year is 64.
Okay, all right.
And the absolute best score, so if a movie was the absolute best across all the metrics we've discussed,
right,
their score would be 8.
Oh, okay.
Because there's 8 metrics, and they'd be the first place in each one of them.
Nice.
So
I'm going to take an early guess that Spider-Verse is going to be around the 10s, maybe the 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my guess.
Well, let's just start getting into the list. So I'll first announce the score that the movie got.
Okay.
And then the movie itself, and then we'll get into asking the question, well, why do we think that movie got where it did?
Why do we think? Let's go into this.
Okay.
Empirically, metaphysically, why do we think? We're going along, folks.
So here we go. We're officially starting reviewing and ranking the comic book films that came out in 2018 according to the Batjar system. So we have in 10th place,
yep,
which basically means it's the worst,
oh.
with 52 points.
All right. Oh, that's not bad still.
Yeah, and so that's another thing just to illustrate is that, if the absolute worst score a movie could get, if they were the worst across all metrics, was, 64, and the worst place one has 52, the points are fairly spread out.
Yeah.
But the guy, the movie that's in last place with 52 points is Venom.
We cannot just eat people.
The way I see it, we can do whatever we want.
Is there something you want to tell me?
Nope.
Look into my eyes. Cooperate. And you just might survive.
How are you doing, Eddie? You look terrible.
Oh, I have a parasite.
Venom.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. It was one of those like.
Did you see Venom?
No, I still have to watch it actually.
You don't have to watch it.
Oh no, but I'm going to, man. Tom Hardy's my boy. But it was one of those movies where people wanted to like it a lot. But I guess.
But you haven't even seen it. So why did you not see the movie? That's the first question to ask, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I was busy at the time.
So in other words, you weren't so interested in it that you went out of your way to find time for it.
Correct. Oh, there you go. There it is. There's the sign.
Yeah, across most metrics, it's the word. It has the lowest rating on Rotten Tomatoes for critics.
Right.
It actually has 29%.
Wow.
So
okay.
the audience.
I just want to see him jump into lobster tank. Spoilers.
It's by the metrics of the Batjar, our Bat Cookie ratings, it has the lowest Bat Cookie ratings of the year.
Interesting. All right. Wow. That's really impressive. I never would have known that.
I went into it with low expectations because the whole idea of doing a Venom movie without any connection to Spider-Man is ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
And it's just not something I particularly cared for, and I tried to have an open mind about it. I tried to, enter into it and to enjoy it. It just felt like a comic book film from 10 years ago.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I got the idea behind that when I was watching it, I was just like, oh, this is like Fantastic Four all over again. It's just like the slapstick comedy.
The effects on Venom himself, like he looked really cool, but that's not enough for it to be a good movie.
No, it has to be a good story. That's the thing. Like with a lot of recent series, like the Violet Evergarden that I watched last year, great animation, beautiful to look at. The story was just so boring, and like I don't usually run into boring stories, but it really was just like. So yeah, same with Venom. Like you gotta have a good story. You gotta have good writing.
This movie made a lot of money in China, so I think that alone helped it not be even farther towards the worst.
They're secretly symbiotes. That's what's going on in China.
And they have already announced a sequel to this movie, so we'll end up talking about all this again. So
nice. Oh, man, it's going to be some carnage later on.
Oh, boo.
Boo.
I misspoke, actually. So Venom is technically in 9th place because there is one tie. So,
oh, interesting. So all right.
So
what's our...
In 8th place with 51 points, so very close to Venom.
All right.
With 51 points in 8th place, we have Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Okay, that one makes sense. That makes a lot more sense than Venom.
There are superheroes. And then there are these guys.
You didn't save anything.
We save room for design!
Having a movie is the only way to be seen as a real hero.
Has there been a movie about you?
There was a Green Lantern movie, but we don't talk about that.
What about an arch nemesis?
Deadpool?
Deadpool? What? Why does everybody think I'm Deadpool? Look into the camera and say something inappropriate. Teen Titans Go to the Movies. Rated PG.
Just because the age thing. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I thought it was hysterical. Like the meta humor about them wanting to get a superhero movie made about themselves and whatnot. But yeah, ultimately, like why this movie is so low on our list is that it didn't make a lot of money.
Makes sense. Yeah, well, yeah, and it's also a different target audience. Like people who are going to see like big Marvel movies aren't going to go see Teen Titans Go to the movies. Although with the new series coming out, that's pretty exciting stuff.
But like The Grinch made a ton of money. That's a movie that's more targeted towards families, isn't it?
Well, yes, but The Grinch is a story that can be enjoyed by all ages pretty well, and it's from the same people who made Horton Hears a Who, which is a far-reaching like audience grab. Like I think a lot of people went to go see Horton Hears a Who when it came out because the visuals were amazing, and The Grinch kind of carried that.
The like flash animation of Teen Titans Go is
it's just this is one thing where animation is actually important. There we go. Yeah,
there's actually 4 animated films among the comic book films of 2018.
All right.
Interestingly enough.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Teen Titans Go to the Movies. I thought it was funny. I enjoyed the kind of DC jokes and like
the joke at the very end got me. That one was great.
Yeah, and like I guess the best thing that we can say about this movie is it sets up the fact that they're going to do a crossover between Teen Titans Go and the original Teen Titans,
which is going to be amazing. I'm so excited.
We'll probably talk about it when it happens.
Yep.
So coming in 7th place with 43 points. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
We unleashed something powerful. We have to stop her.
If you want to do something right, you make a list. 1, we have to team up. 2, we're going to have to fight Ghost. 3, we're going to track down Ghost. That seems like it should be part of 2. 2A.
Watch this.
Oh, also, we have to save the world. That's major. We can't forget that.
Still makes sense. Yep.
Why does it make sense to you?
It was at that time where there was just a big lull, and I heard a lot of people grumbling about, oh, not another one of these movies. Although Ant-Man and the Wasp was a great movie. They did a good job setting up a few things. I just don't think that Ant-Man has enough pull on the psyche of people to really draw in.
It's kind of a small character.
Yeah, see what you did there. But yeah, exactly. You know, it just shrinking expectations, I guess.
Oh, wow. It was actually one of the Asian John's favorite movies of the year. He actually gave it a 3.7.
Nice.
Out of 4 back
All right.
I did not. And I think, forgive the pun, but it felt like especially after Infinity War, it felt like such a small movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, why? Like, does any of this even matter consequentially? And I think I might have even enjoyed the first Ant-Man surprised me in how much I enjoyed it.
Right.
And so I feel like just my experience of seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first Ant-Man.
Right.
this was definitely a movie where a lot of the best shots were in the trailer. And so a lot of the shrinking and growing that you see in the trailers are like in the movie exactly as they are in the trailer.
And it's like 90% of those fights. Everything else, like, they don't do anything really clever. I think they put the clever shots in to be like, hey guys, it's going to be a good movie. And then they don't really add that many more clever things. Plus the villain wasn't really, the draw for them doing what they were doing wasn't really that strong.
Yeah, so I mean, Marvel usually does a good job with their trailers. They're really good at hiding things, but this was just a case where like all the best parts of the movie were in the trailer.
Yeah.
And you're right, it does kind of dovetail back into what's happening next in the MCU, but it's skippable. It's not streaming on Netflix, so if you were one of those people that just didn't go see it,
there you go.
It's like, I agree with what you said. It's worthwhile watching. It's not a terrible movie by any means. It's just not nearly as interesting or as exciting about some of these other movies we're going to talk about.
They also added Incredibles 2 onto Netflix, so good times.
So coming in sixth place with 42 points, again, pretty much right at the same level as Ant-Man, but just a little higher, is Aquaman.
Atlantis has always had a king. Now it needs something more. A hero.
Oh, no.
Your brother is about to declare war. We must stop him.
Sounds like fun. Let's do it. I'm nobody, but I came to save my home and the people that I love.
Really? So it scored well in terms of like box office returns and stuff, but it just couldn't match up against... Yeah,
it had one of the lowest critic scores on Rotten Tomatoes and actually one of the lowest audience scores as well.
Really? I thought it was a decent movie.
It is currently, like, for 2018, it's second place in terms of international box office.
Okay.
So it was another movie that made a ton of money in the rest of the world. As of right now, it's like ranked 5th for these comic book films domestically.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense then.
So, I mean, and we had some comic book movies this year that made a lot of money. So
trying to match up this thing against the Titans that came in this year was probably...
No, the Titans were earlier in the show.
Oh, okay. I said, meh. Oh, man.
And then, like, for your grade was basically one of the lowest... Like, your score of the movie basically impacted it as well because it was one of the lowest ones.
Yep, just gotta knock it down. Gotta sweep its legs from under it like a toe current.
Oh wow!
Up with the current events. We're just giving the whole thing a wash.
Oh boy! But yeah, I think this is definitely a case where it was a crowd pleaser audience wise, but then just didn't land well with critics. And I don't know if it was because they tried to do too much with the story or because it felt too much like Thor and Black Panther, and like having seen those characters in the same year, perhaps
you're like, oh, it's another one of these. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if it felt like too much of the same, and I don't know. It's also possible that the bad blood carried over from Justice League still left an impact on the movie a year later. It's hard to say.
Probably. I'm assuming it flavored every DC. Like Wonder Woman was fighting against the current. It was like a thing of hope. Had Aquaman come out right after Wonder Woman and before Justice League, I think we would have seen a difference.
So there you go, guys. There's a lesson in how to build a cinematic universe. Don't force things. Just let your solo movies do their thing, you know?
Yep. Yeah. We gotta have Justice League now.
But I mean, I stand by it. I enjoyed Aquaman, and I think of all of the movies that are in this DC shared universe, it's my favorite.
Yep. I know, I'm going to agree with that. I think Wonder Woman beats it for me, but that's pretty much it.
And the overall box office for Aquaman is now having it as the highest grossing DC film of all time around the world.
We waited, and we knew it would happen. And you didn't believe us, but you were wrong.
The only Warner Brothers movie to make more money around the world than Aquaman is the last Harry Potter 8.
Really?
Yeah, that's how significant the performance of Aquaman has been. I mean, let me ask you this. Did it accomplish its goal of making you think Aquaman's a cool character?
Oh, heck yeah.
Then that's, in my mind, like, that's the win.
That's good. That's some good stuff. I mean, Jason Momoa, of course he'd pull it off, unless there was the worst writing in the world, which there wasn't.
This wasn't the best.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so coming in 5th place with 39 points.
All right, we're getting into it.
We have My Hero Academia, 2 Heroes.
Allow me to introduce you to one of my best friends, David Shield.
I remember the day I designed your first costume.
Actually, I'm Crookless.
She's just like I was. You want to be someone who helps heroes.
Right. That's how I'm going to make a real difference. Or at least I hope so.
Play nice, because everyone on this island is my hostage.
I'll do what I can to stop the villains.
Nice. And yeah, just really fun movie and just a blast to sit down and watch. I brought my fiance and she had no idea what My Hero Academia was about, so it's a ongoing series, and she just sat down and watched the movie and had a really good time.
Well, that's good because so this is an anime film. It got a limited theatrical release in North America in September. It is, it's based on a manga, so it counts as a comic book film, and then it's also about superheroes, so it kind of just works well perfectly. But I think that's the whole reason these long-running anime series do movies, is so that they can introduce the franchise to new people.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, once you start watching these shows, like, you can't just sit down and watch any episode. It's like part of a serialized storyline. There's tons of characters, and you don't know their backstories.
And this is one of those animes where there are literally tons of characters. There's about like 40 characters, 15 of which are important. It's like, all right, wow.
So yeah, I am a follower of this series. So when I saw the movie, I didn't need to be introduced to everybody, but the refresher was still nice. But I was really impressed with like the animation, like the fight animation. This was like, it was all hand drawn, like people actually not actually punching each other because it's animation, but
animators punching each other, fights in the street. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay in your homes. It was one of the like really well and really smooth animation with a nice closed-in story and some really crunchy animation sequences where you think they're going to skip frames, but no, they put some fluid motion where you weren't expecting it.
And the problem a lot of anime films get, especially if they're part of an ongoing series, is that it becomes challenging to understand like where it fits in the continuity of the series. But this one does a good job of like finding a space between the seasons of the show to like just be where the story takes place. So. Right. So would you agree that you tested this with your fiance? You had her experience it without having seen the other show,
and it's fantastic. Yeah, no, exactly.
And so you'd agree that basically it's a great way for people who haven't seen the show before to get introduced to it.
Yep, and then they can go back to the beginning and be like, all right, how did all these characters meet? If you like the movie, give the anime like 4 or 5 episodes and work your way through it, and it just becomes a really enjoyable like superhero thing with, of course, some of the Eastern culture anime tropes which you might not be used to, but it does grow on you. Like, it's very, very easy to get into.
And if you don't like subtitles in any language, the English dub is very good.
It is quite good. Yeah, the main character who does the Superman hero in this one, All Might, is I
am here.
Yes, and he's so boisterous, and I'm ready. It's fantastic, and it seems overdone, but it's not. It matches perfectly with this character.
Now, this is actually very impressive that it's even this like high up the list, because it was a limited release, so it has like 20 points of its score come just from the fact that it made the least amount of money.
Oh, interesting.
So the fact that it is so high on the list, and it didn't even get a cinema score because it was a limited release, so it got the lowest possible score in 3 of our 8 categories. So the fact that it isn't the worst, like ranked as the worst movie, or
shows that it has some promise.
Yeah. So
I think overall that sign on its own would actually put it higher on the list than it actually is. This actually might be an artificial lowering a little bit on the list.
Yeah, and so it's just fun to see, like, in terms of IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes audience score, it actually is like one of the highest rated films of the year. Mm-hmm. And again, you could argue that's biased because it's just fans of the thing doing it, but
yeah,
dang it, that's how we talk about things.
Dang it, fans make the world go round. Lots of them, lots of big fans, all pointed in one direction.
So now we're going to move on to 4th place with 37 points, again, in pretty much in the same neighborhood.
Okay.
Deadpool 2.
I ain't letting Cable kill this kid. We're gonna form a super duper group.
Our group will be forward thinking, gender neutral. We will be known as X-Force.
Isn't that a little derivative?
You're absolutely right.
Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years, rocking my pants, put suckers in fear.
I don't know much about this Cable fella, but I guarantee he hasn't killed as many people as Melanoma has.
Paul, zip it.
My name's Peter.
Get tickets now.
I watched Once Upon a Deadpool a couple weeks ago, and I was very glad that I did. Do you know the premise of Once Upon a Deadpool?
Yeah, so there's Fred Savage, and he's stuck in the bedroom from the what's that movie, The Princess Bride?
Princess Bride, yeah. So Once Upon a Deadpool is a PG-13, although I would put it as a 14A retelling of Deadpool 2, and it was fantastic. I loved it. It was a lot of fun.
So you didn't see like Deadpool 2 proper, you just saw the
I just
recap.
saw the recap, and I'm glad I did. Nope. Deadpool 2 would have been a bit too much for me. So yeah, Once Upon a Deadpool was great.
Yeah, I reviewed Deadpool 2 on the podcast with my brother Dan Hatton, and he really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was an improvement over the first Deadpool because there was less like just unnecessary crude humor, and the director of Deadpool 2 was one of the directors of John Wick.
Oh, nice.
So
interesting.
I felt like there was a little bit more style to the fight scenes and the action.
Brad Pitt in for 3 seconds of the movie.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah,
that didn't happen.
That didn't happen at all.
And I was thankful.
Go see it.
I was thankful that they kind of built a team around Deadpool because, frankly, just his shenanigans can only be entertaining for so long on their own.
Yep.
So I think and they're moving forward with X-Force as a result of.
Oh, interesting.
Like they talk about X-Force in Deadpool 2, but doing an actual X-Force movie.
Nice. Lucky was amazing. I wish Terry Crews had more screen time. Basically, the entire team they assemble is hilarious.
Yeah, it was again like it did a lot of what the first film did in terms of like lampooning the comic book movie franchise. A lot of the same jokes. So if you've seen one, you've seen them both, and it didn't perform as well financially as the first Deadpool.
Mm-hmm. But it scored well with critics.
More or less.
I would highly recommend that you watch Once Upon a Deadpool because the cuts that they do really adds a lot of humor to the way the movie's put together.
Yeah, so like the combined box office for Deadpool 2, if you include the extra money I got from Once Upon a Deadpool, puts it as the fourth highest grossing domestically.
No, people love it.
And it's an R-rated movie too, so generally the second you make a movie R-rated, you immediately decrease the potential audience of the film. But lots of people seem to still like Deadpool, so there you go.
Yep.
All right, so we're going down to the final 4 movies. There's a tie for second.
Ooh, all right. Bring it. Lay it on me. Let's see if we can figure out which one is actually in second place using some wishy-washy, out-of-the-box thinking.
Right. Well, okay, so I mentioned earlier that essentially the best score a movie could get is 8.
Okay.
If they were the best movie if they were the number one,
right? Because
it's
like golf. Yeah, there you go.
But I meant like their total score.
Okay, got it.
Because if they had a 1 in every area, they'd have a score of 8.
Okay.
But
ties for second are
there's a tie for second. So the range, if you will, between the movies that are in third place and first place, it's all very close. It's 24 to 19.
Wow. All right.
So what that tells me is that, the fact that the highest score is 19 shows that there isn't like one movie that across all metrics was considered the best.
Right.
And the fact that all these scores are so relatively close, it shows that like there is an proximity of the quality, that there are similar levels of quality, but there's still a ranking. So
all right, let's take a look.
In third place, with 24 points, is Black Panther.
The Black Panther lives.
I am ready.
My heart don't skip a beat even when hard times bumps the needle.
Woo! Let's go!
On February 16th, the King arrives.
Earthquake, the body drop, the ground breaks. The poor run with smoke lungs and Scarface. Show off.
What are you talking about?
You need a hero. Look in the mirror. There go your hero.
Black Panther, rated PG-13.
Interesting. All right. So I'm going to actually put that as a real third placer.
What do you mean a real
third placer? I think it was artificially inflated by a lot of the dialogue going on at the time. But at the same time, it was a very, very good movie. So I'm giving that one a true third place.
You know what? Yeah, it's nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars this year. Of the comic book films, and it's not even the best among our own list here.
Yep.
Do I think it's worthy of that nomination? Not really. I mean, it tackles some themes around immigration and identity that aren't talked about in other superhero movies.
Yep.
But
in terms of cinematography, it's the same Marvel movie we've been seeing the whole time. Like,
and it's got like, I think it has like 7 or 8 Oscar nominations, like, and it kind of like, it just has a lot of good buzz around it. Like, it got nominated for like costume design, production design, sound editing, whatever. It's kind of one of those movies that a lot of people just really liked, and so when it gets down to it, it gets a lot of, because a lot of people are thinking about the movie, it ended up getting a lot of Oscar nominations. So,
yep.
Do I think it's going to win? No.
No.
But I think it's a win for us comic book movie fans that they're even getting some kind of acknowledgement there. I think it should win for like costume design. It did look very impressive, and
oh yeah, they had an amazing choice, especially like the cape shields. Yeah. Super cool. Although not really good in battle, because you have to hold your cape in front of you in order to shield. How do you fight? Anyways, yeah, there's some flaws there.
In our review of Black Panther, I made a point of saying that I cared more and felt like I knew Wakanda more after just the one movie than I knew of. What's it called? Where's Thor from?
Asgard.
I cared more about Wakanda in the one movie than I did about Asgard in 3 movies.
Because Asgard is just this like lofty ideal. It's not what we deal in as human beings. Whereas Wakanda is more dealt in like, you know, like the tribalism and the politics that we're more used to. Whereas Asgard, we didn't really get into the politics and stuff. It's like there's a king and there are his subjects. There's not a lot of interplay between that.
That's fair. And I honestly think Black Panther is like the ultimate win of them slowly building the universe, because they make in Iron Man 2, there's like a map with Wakanda written on it.
Oh, okay.
And then in the first Captain America, they mention vibranium for the first time.
Right.
And then in Age of Ultron, they mention Wakanda again, and they introduce Claw.
Right.
And then in Civil War, they actually introduced Black Panther himself. So like it's such a slow build.
And they pulled it off without, going out of business first.
Yes.
I was expecting Marvel to go under before Infinity War could get completed.
Oh, boy.
I would have been so sad. And I can't wait to see them release the disc set of the entire cinematic universe.
Oh, that'll be so expensive.
Yep.
So, again, yes, Black Panther is a good movie. I don't think it's as good as the media is making it out to be. It is not the first like comic book film starring a black character like that. We've talked about it in our episode. There have been others, not as good as Black Panther, but Blade, Steel,
yep,
Catwoman, technically.
Very good.
But it is by far the best of those films, and I'm just happy people. Black Panther was actually the highest grossing film domestically.
Okay,
it made just over $700 million in North America.
That's really good. That's really, really good.
And I think, that's pretty much the highest domestic box office for any MCU movie. So it tells me that something about Black Panther, whether it is the fact that it was, the cast was dominated by African actors, but there's something about the movie that made people who don't normally go see Marvel movies show up in the theater.
Right.
So you got to give it that credit, I suppose.
Yeah, no, and we do. It was a good movie.
Very close to Black Panther. So Black Panther had 24 points.
Yep.
There's a tie for second with 23 points.
Wow. Okay.
So very close.
2 movies that have tied at 23 points?
Yep.
All right. I want to see if I can decide which one is true second.
They're both animated.
Okay.
So we have both Incredibles 2
okay,
and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse is the true second. Incredibles is third. I'm sorry. There's no. I'm not even going close to that one.
Well, I mean, just metrics-wise, if you go by our system, their factors added up to being equal.
Nope. I'm going with the nostalgia meter on Incredibles as to having brought out a big crowd and more money. Spider-Verse won it all by its bootstraps after having a troubled past in the Spider-Man world and pulled ahead despite it. True underdog story. Spider-Man pulls ahead. Incredibles is great, but not as great.
Okay, well,
I have strong opinions.
So again, people might even question why Incredibles 2 is on this list, because it is not based on a comic book, but however, I would argue it is heavily inspired by comic books.
It is very much a superhero movie. It's the superhero movie that came out before superhero movies started coming out, kind of thing. Like, kind of made people want that taste again, like...
Hello?
Hey, honey. Dash got his homework done?
All done.
And how was Violet's day?
Ah! Good.
In Jack?
He's in excellent health.
Supers are no longer in control. I am.
We want to fight bad guys. Us.
Heads up, Dad!
Thank you, young man.
Disney Pixar's Incredibles 2, rated PG in theaters June 15th.
As the people in Incredibles 1 desired for superheroes to return, so did the audience desire for superheroes to return to the film industry.
Interesting commentary for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that 14 years, that is certainly a long time to wait for a sequel.
15 years too late.
Oh, wow. Well, no, do you think it was too long a wait for this? Obviously not, because it made...
it made them... I think they could have done it 5 years ago, and it would have been good. I think they could have released one
They were too busy making Monsters University.
And I roll on the floor and writhe and scream. Oh, goodness. Venom style.
Oh, no.
Oh, gosh. I think they could even do a third movie. Like, easily.
Oh, yeah, and I hope it does happen, because I would agree with you. Yes, there is certainly a lot of nostalgia built up around Incredibles 2, and I saw it twice in the theater, loved it both times, and I would agree the common kind of criticism of it is that it's more or less very similar to the first one, and if you watch them back to back, you notice it, but if it's been so long, it's like I just wanted to see more Incredibles.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed what they did differently with the story, like basically like the whole campaign to try and make superheroes legal again. If I would have preferred a less direct sequel.
Right.
Like in terms of it just sort of picks up exactly where the first one ended.
It would have been nice like a couple years later they're still in hiding and then this stuff happens. But I also wasn't expecting them to start it right up afterwards. So that was kind of neat.
Well, at least maybe like the first sequence and then do a time jump, But
yeah.
Anyway. And so for you, Spider-Verse takes the cake. And by our metrics, really... outside of box office, it's pretty much at the top for everything.
When do I know I'm Spider-Man?
This was never your city. It's mine.
You won't. In the end, it's a leap of faith.
Can't stop me now!
Hey guys.
Who are you?
I'm Spider-Woman.
If we don't work together, none of us will have a home to go home to. Now, we taught him that, right?
I didn't teach him that, and you definitely didn't.
Right.
It actually it was one of the lowest grossing films on our list outside of the limited releases of My Hero and Teen Titans. It's the lowest grossing movie.
Which one?
Spider-Verse.
Oh, okay.
It has gained the title of being the highest grossing film for Sony Animation. But it made $170 million so far. And that compares to the Incredibles 2, which made just over $600 million.
Right. And it had more pull. But yeah, no, objectively, Spider-Verse is definitely just such a good movie. And I think being able to win out despite not having that money behind it is a pretty good sign that it pulls ahead by a little bit.
Yeah, it is the number one audience scored movie. It has one of the highest cinema scores, the highest IMDb rating, one of the highest scores that either of us gave a movie. So in terms of, and the second highest for Rotten Tomatoes critics scores. So really, like I said, across all the kind of, if it weren't for the fact that it just didn't make money.
Right. It would have pulled ahead.
It would probably be at the top.
Yeah.
But this asks the question, why do you think it didn't make any money?
Well, it's because of Spider-Man's trouble.
It made some money.
Yeah. It made definitely like $170 million. It's not something to scoff at. Like I could do something with 170. But like the idea behind it is, Spider-Man as an entire franchise has had a troubled past. And the animation style was very different. So, with that animated feature, you're not going to have the same kind of audience. But I think what took people by surprise and what really drew it in was just a solidly written story. Like, really good, like some loose bits that weren't like tight enough for the story, but just a really solid run from one end to the other. Great comedy, but unexpected for a Spider-Man movie. And that's because people expected something of a Spider-Man movie and therefore didn't go to see it. The only thing that made me want to go to see it is the visuals that were so different, and once I arrived, the story that was so different. So yeah, I give this one a true second place, whereas artificial second place to Incredibles.
Okay, well, unfortunately, our own opinions only factor so much into the official.
Dang it! I'm cranking it higher. I'm making us three opinions, 3 columns. We're taking over.
I would agree with what you said, though. If we were to somehow, we can't change the system because that's what it is.
Can't change the system, man.
I was blown away by Spider-Verse. I saw it twice in the theater. I want to see it a third time because I feel like there was like I went to it the second time thinking, okay, I'm going to try and pay attention to all the animation Easter eggs that I missed the first time. But I got sucked into the story again. I just completely forgot about my like mission to like
look at the Easter eggs and bits.
Because I just and the music and just like I think one of the things I really appreciate about the movie, like after having seen it twice, is that it does representation and diversity right, because it doesn't talk about it. It just shows here are characters of different races who are actually just characters. They're
and
not
just living their lives.
Yeah, they're not defined by their background. Like they have
a Mexican person doesn't arrive on screen and goes, "I'm Mexican," and then kicks someone else over, and it's just like, no, stop.
And they don't derive their value from, like, it's part of who they are, but they don't. It's not like their whole identity is like, I'm a Mexican who's gonna kick a guy.
Yeah,
you know. No. So I just appreciate how it just had characters that looked different as heroes of the story. Like that's how they should do things like this.
Yeah. You don't need to have them yell about it. You don't need to have like all this politics behind it. You just need to do it. People won't bat an eye if there's diversity in the film. They will bat an eye if you try to force them to look at the diversity.
Yeah, so Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is still in theaters. It's nominated for Best Animated movie at the Oscars.
And dang straight, because those are some great visuals, and I hope it wins.
It's going against Incredibles 2, and Pixar movies seem to always win the Oscars. So, I mean, we both like Incredibles 2. It's it's tied with at second on our scale here. But I hope that Spider-Verse wins.
Yeah,
it won the Golden Globe for Best Animated Film. It just won an Annie Award. It won the Critics Guild. Like, it seems like it's winning all of the awards. So, here's hoping. And I hope that they make more, because the fact the movie didn't do so well financially makes me worried they're not going to continue.
But at the same time, like, it was so well received, like we might get another sequel in 10 years. Hey!
No, sooner, please.
Sooner, please. Please, Sony, if you're listening. Big brother Sony, please, just...
And outside of a Mayday Parker, we got to have like at least cameos by all the movie Spider-Men. That would be great.
Oh, man, that'd be amazing. Even like just as like voice actors and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Or like blend live action. They're all like wearing their suits.
Oh gosh, no! It just made my mind cringe trying to mix live action with CGI. Sorry, Green Lantern.
Oh wow.
Yeah, low.
So yes, if you guys have been following along, we're at the end here. We're going to be talking about the
big number one.
The number one movie, and if you've been like looking through our list, you're like, okay, like what's left? Oh, of course it's that movie. So with 19 points coming in at number one for comic book films of 2018, we have Avengers
Infinity War.
Avengers. I hope they remember you. I do hope those that survive remember everything.
Which, wasn't groundbreaking, it wasn't crazy, but it was amazing and fun.
It wasn't groundbreaking. When was the last time you saw a movie that brought together a 10-year-long storyline into one movie with many, many characters? When was the last time you saw that happen?
Bugs Bunny.
This is truly an accomplishment in cinema. The fact that this
managed to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like you joked about Marvel potentially going bankrupt, because like when they started this, they had no idea this was going to be a hit. They, like the franchise. I'm talking about the MCU as a franchise.
Oh yeah.
Like they
tried with like Fantastic Four and a few other things, and like not all their movies did well, but they kept at it.
Well, no, so Fantastic Four was produced by Fox.
Well, yeah, I know, but it's still an MCU like ish, but it's not produced with their quality, but it's still one of those things where superhero movies as a whole need to say, I need to succeed so that she can succeed, so that we can succeed.
Right. I meant to say like the specific Marvel Studios gambit of taking all their like lowest rung characters that they had left over,
right,
and starting a studio with the promise of connecting those characters. Like they had no idea this was going to be a thing. And, when I saw the first Avengers and they teased Thanos in the end, I had no idea who Thanos was, because
exactly.
I was not an avid Marvel Comics reader. So I'm like everybody else Googling who is Purple Guy.
Who is Purple Man? Did you mean Barney the Dinosaur? Barney the Dinosaur is Thanos. There was great moments like that on the
There's
internet.
actually there was a good meme of him knocking over the green dinosaur girl, and they play the audio from Infinity War and the music. It was, without spoiling anything.
Yeah,
it was interesting.
That's really funny.
A good parallel, but nonetheless, like I like we did a whole episode on the podcast about Infinity War speculations and homework because it is quite the feat that this movie was able to land the way it did. Like it could have easily become insanely convoluted or just not good, trying to essentially blend these different franchises and to kind of land the storyline they've been telling for many years now.
But they did it. They pulled it off, like with a lot of heart too.
And there's humor. Like the jokes are hilarious.
Oh yeah, like the timing on it was just so perfect. Like the little like quips that you would expect from Tony Stark, they pulled themselves off in like different areas.
I am Steve Rogers.
I still so good.
Why was she up there this whole time?
She was busy.
I saw this movie in theaters 3 times.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Because it became an experience. The first time you saw it, you're reacting to it yourself.
Right.
But it became so interesting to go to the movie theater and see it with an audience.
Right.
Because there's so many moments of shock and awe, and you're like, oh, like how is this group going to react to this? Or are they going to laugh at this joke? Are they going to laugh at that joke? How are they going to feel about this reveal?
Right.
Because it's a movie where a lot of significant things happens. And there's so much going on that there were plot details I didn't notice until the 3rd time I saw it.
Right.
So there's so much going on.
So do you know what's going to happen in Endgame then?
So what my take? So I spent a lot of time like coming up with my fan theories for Infinity War.
Right.
And one of the only things I didn't like about it is that most of my fan theories didn't come true.
Right.
So I've basically decided for Endgame to not try and think about it too much because I don't want to like. At the same time, it's like I'm disappointed because my little fan theories didn't come true, but I'm also happy because I was surprised.
Right.
So
I think they save everyone in Endgame.
Oh, I hope not. Because it's just amazing to me that like with this and Spider-Verse, we've gotten to the point where these very comic book events, like these massive crossovers, like this is a very common thing in comic books. If you ever sat down to read a comic book, they have these inter-series crossover events where characters from all the different series come together. You know, the DC CW TV universe does this every year now too. So it's amazing to me that these giant crossover event stories that involve multiverses and all this are now like the plots of these major motion pictures. It's astounding, and Infinity War is more or less at the top for most things. It has one of the lower Rotten Tomato critic scores, so like 6 points come from the fact that it has the 6th. And it only has like 83%. It's not even like it has that low a critic score.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Generally, most of these films were rated pretty high on Rotten Tomatoes by the critics, like the aggregate. So people criticize this as a film because, well, as a film, like not many of the characters get development and.
But they're not looking at it as a series kind of thing, right?
No, and so you can make the argument that as a solo film, independent of everything else, the plot isn't as deep and the characters aren't as deep because there's just a lot of stuff.
Right.
But I would argue you don't need that you don't need to know Falcon's motivations because he's been in 5 movies before this. You know his journey and you know that for this massive event that's happening, he just needs to be there, and have a couple lines here. Just the knowledge that he's there in the scene.
Yeah.
So people would say it's not my favorite Marvel movie. It's not my favorite MCU movie. It's not my favorite movie of the year.
But it's still a good movie.
I would say it's a great movie.
Yeah.
It made just over $2 billion worldwide.
Wow. All right. Yeah. So that's our highest grossing.
It has the highest grossing opening weekend of all time. It made just less than Black Panther domestically.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it made $678 million domestically.
That's amazing then. So yeah, that's awesome.
And you're right. This could be like the highlight. Like we could be talking about, comic movies did so well in 2018. After Endgame, maybe the MCU will start to decline, and it's like maybe they'll never be able to replicate this high.
Yeah.
The anticipation.
Yeah.
Because I've heard people say, okay, well, I've been following Marvel up until now, but once this story with the Thanos and the stones goes away, then I'll go.
I'm pretty much done. Yeah. So
like I've spent my time here, and I'm going to do something else now.
Yeah. What do you mean do something else? It's not like the theater takes up that much of your life. I mean, unless you're us.
Yeah. and Thanos, like,
he's a great bad guy. So, okay, my comparison was when I was watching the Guardians of the Galaxy and previous Marvel movies, their bad guys were fun. But Guardians of the Galaxy was ruined for me because who's the main bad guy?
In the first one?
Yeah.
Ronan, the accuser.
Yeah, so Ronan felt like a pretty good bad guy, but then as soon as you saw him next to Thanos, he just felt like this annoying child. Like, you're just like, wow, you're just this pouty little nothing next to someone of actual power and strength. And the way the voice actor they picked for Thanos and the gravitas that they gave him and this like conniving mind just had weight to it, like true villainy. And with a philosophy that can even trick some people into thinking, you know, maybe he's right. You know, that's real villainy right there. And they did a good job.
Yeah, and like the motion capture, because Josh Brolin was on set,
right,
doing motion capture for Thanos. He looks like he's a giant purple man.
Yeah,
it's incredible. And in Infinity War, it's only NASCAR. It's only
NASCAR.
It's only NASCAR nomination.
Where the entire MCU is now doing NASCAR. Tune in 5, 6, 7 on your satellite dishes, folks.
The only Oscar nomination Infinity War has is for visual effects.
Right,
and Thanos alone. But most like there were a couple of things where it's like, okay, like that looks like Robert Downey Jr.'s head on a CGI Iron Man suit, or the Iron Spider. Like there were a couple of things that didn't look convincing, but generally, like there's like everything looks so amazing.
Blows up a moon, all the ships crashing, like everything, the stars. Like when I think of Infinity War, I think how much green screen do we need until we're
an animated film?
Yeah, I was about to say until we're setting this up as the best animated film of the year. You know, like it's well done.
And again, I kind of think it was like the superhero.
Infinity War.
The superhero version of like the epics, like Lord of the Rings, because the story is so massive and the threat is so large that you have to have different camps of characters like accomplishing different side quests
in order to actually get anything done. Yeah, no, like you can't face this head on.
And I don't know if it'll ever happen again where I see this many characters again. The dream of every kid who's ever read a comic book is that all these characters that you see on the pages together show up in the movies together. And for a long time, that was not the case. Like every superhero seemingly exists in their own movie universe.
Yeah.
And Avengers is great. There was all 6 of them. But then this, whole nother level.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
And who knows, maybe when we do this list next year, Avengers Endgame will be all that more impressive, and it'll be the #1 movie next year. Who knows?
I'm very, very excited to see what goes on in this year of comic books. But I think Endgame's going to be our definitely higher metric.
Well, let's before we just let's speculate a bit on this year we're in now, but just to put a cap on it.
Right.
2018.
2018. So Infinity War, despite being a great movie, if I gave true second place to Spider-Verse and Infinity War had done maybe a little bit less well, I think Spider-Verse would have been my #1 movie of 2018.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I liked it that much.
Well, that's okay because Pixel Patch's ranking can be different than the Bat Jars.
Oh yeah, exactly. I'm going out, gonna form my own podcast with MCU Universe and and video games.
I more or less agree with your sentiments. I don't think I'd put in Spider-Verse ahead of Infinity War, but there you go. Those are the comic book films of 2018. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Do you think we did a good job there? Ranking them definitively, because
I think that's actually like from the list there wasn't, you know how some lists surprised me. I'm like, oh really, like they didn't get there. This list made sense, like in the long run it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, so when we do this episode for 2019, it's going to be very interesting because already, it's the first week of February, there's already been 3 comic book films released: Reign of the Supermen, Dragon Ball Super Broly, and Glass.
Oh,
just in January.
Okay, interesting. I think Glass is probably going to be pretty low.
And then we have Alita Battle Angel coming out this month.
I am so excited for that one.
Early reviews are not looking good. So
shoot. I've been following a friend of mine. So a friend of mine on Facebook, Tom Parrish, he worked on the visuals for a multiplayer Dracula hunting game called Hunter's Guild. Really cool visuals and design, and that's where I started following him and following his stuff. He loves Alita Battle Angel. So he had an early viewing a couple days ago. Loved it. So because of him, I'm excited to go see it.
You've got Captain Marvel.
I'm curious. I
enjoy the period piece element of it. That's I think my favorite part.
Yeah, I
love the world building of the MCU. I think part of why I like the first Ant-Man is because it sets up stuff in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. So you're just oh, okay, this works. I am curious to see how it goes. I don't know anything about Captain Marvel's powers, so I'm going to be very
basically a Dragon Ball character, it seems.
Oh, okay. Seems. Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, well, there you go.
We got Shazam.
Yeah. Oh, Shazam's going to be... If they do the comedy well, okay, here's the thing. It could end up being a Green Lantern.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it and I'm I don't know. But it looks like it'll be funny enough, and if it avoids a bad villain, I think it'll be good.
There's the Hellboy remake.
I'm probably going to go see it. I have enjoyed all the movies so far, but if they do...
Have you seen the trailer for this?
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about it. I mean, I love Ron Perlman so much as Hellboy.
Right? It was a good choice.
It'll be hard, but I'm willing to give it a shot.
If they redo some of the storylines of previous movies, I'm going to be really upset. If they rehash, I'm just going to be no, I'll, set fire to the theater or something.
We have Endgame, Avengers Endgame.
Going to be fantastic.
We have X-Men Dark Phoenix. Oh boy.
Is that the last? It's the last one in the series, right? They're giving up after this because
technically
Disney bought it back.
There's also New Mutants that's supposed to be coming out this August, which I know you're not excited about.
No, just no. And the Teen Titans got released on Netflix a few weeks ago, and it's just
Titans.
Yeah. Full.
I enjoyed it.
Full-grown adult Titans. I can't get into it. I gotta try it again, maybe.
Yeah.
What's the movie I haven't seen yet though? Venom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't need to watch Venom.
Stop it. I want to see Tom Hardy jump in a lobster cage.
Yeah. I really hope that. I honestly hope they don't release X-Men Dark Phoenix because it just looks like a rehash of X-Men 3, which was not good.
Yeah.
And I'd rather just
please save me. Only Wolverine can save her.
No, well, I don't. Hopefully, he's not in that movie.
Hugh Jackman just comes out of nowhere and rips the new Wolverine in half. You can never be me.
I do not want that to happen.
I want to see him have a fist fight with the entire cast.
That would.
Just knocks James McAvoy off his wheelchair.
We've got Spider-Man Far From Home.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting.
I'm really looking forward to that one.
Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio, I was not on board with until I saw his freaking costume. Wow! This is going to be some fun stuff. And they have his illusion powers kind of working, so I'm wondering if he's actually fighting the elementals or if he's the one summoning them.
Spoilers for people who don't know.
Come on!
It's speculation.
Speculation, yeah. Accurate speculation.
And then if I'm remembering things correctly, we actually have a end to comic book films earlier in 2019 because they
stop. No,
they stopped coming out sooner. I think the last one is The Joker in October.
Okay, out with a whimper, not with a bang, I guess.
Who knows? It could be really good. This Joker origin movie with Joaquin Phoenix in the role.
Joaquin. Every time I hear Joaquin, I keep thinking of. Have you ever seen The Book of Life?
No.
Okay, there's a character in it who just yells his own name every time he goes to the battle. He's just oh, Joaquin!
I think his name's actually Joaquin.
Phoenix. Yeah, but that's what I think about.
Okay. I maintain that the Joker is a character that shouldn't get an origin. It's better to just
not know. My father was a race car driver. Never open up a chip bag with a chainsaw. Have you ever seen this?
No. Explain this.
This is look up on YouTube, guys. Alternate. Oh my gosh, alternate backstory for the Joker, and it's just one of the funniest videos you could watch. And it's just this guy gives 10 different explanations for why he's the Joker. He's you want to know how I got these scars? Let me tell you. In song. And he grabs a guitar. It's never open a chip bag with a chainsaw. And you're oh gosh, it's great.
Do we count Men in Black International?
Yeah. Oh, no, is it based on a comic?
Well, so the original Men in Black is based on a comic book.
Oh, then heck yeah. And it's got Liam Neeson in it, so why not? It'll at least give us something to put in 7th and 8th place. Oh, throwing shade. I actually think I'm going to enjoy it. Here, fun fact, I actually enjoy every single Men in Black movie, and I hope they keep making more because it's just a universe that I enjoy. Men in Black 3, though, top movie. Like, it was so much fun.
Also with Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin, who...
Thanos from Avengers Infinity War, Cable from Deadpool 2.
Oh, really? Okay, wow.
Yeah, he played the young Agent K.
What the heck? That makes so much sense. Wow, he did a really, really good job of
imitating Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, no,
I can't do it, obviously.
Let the pie do its work, boy. Yeah.
So I think 2019 is going to be an interesting year. There's a lot of variety.
Yeah.
No animated films. I guess, Dragon Ball Super. That counts.
Still have to see it. I'm going to probably stream it during Mass today. I need to watch this.
And, it'll be interesting, like, especially if this trend of increased box office continues. Probably not because, the heavy hitters of Black Panther, Incredibles 2, and Infinity War aren't. I mean, Endgame is still there, but...
Yeah, so other than Endgame, it's going to be a pretty close, cage fight between a lot of these. We'll see.
Yeah. So there you go.
And here comes Brawley with a chair. Men in Black just can't handle it. We need to do a cage match radio dramatization. Next year, our top 10 list will be a radio dramatization. It's like, all right, so if you follow back and home after that insane fight, we have Infinity War still standing, Men in Black 3 with a broken leg, and all this stuff. We'll just make up metrics for it.
Okay. Well, there you go. So this is normally when we go into the batch hour and look at our mail, but we don't have any today. But since you weren't here last week, there was a question about video games. I guess we should let you answer that.
Yes. What was it?
So it was basically asking the question, what is your greatest accomplishment in gaming? And then the second part was, what game that you played in the early 2000s you'd want to see remade?
Interesting. Early 2000s. Okay, I have to go further back than that because I'm old. Super Mario RPG is my favorite game of all time. It's just got a lot of quirky, good humor, and it's Nintendo teaming up with the guys who made Final Fantasy. So it's got a lot of that mixed universe that Kingdom Hearts people seem to love. Yeah, it really is. It's
like the MCU of Disney video games.
It's the MCU of Disney video games. That's the thing. And it's just a really fun game that I hope that they remake. Early 2000s is really hard to say. I just want a good split-screen shooter like Halo, but maybe more kid-friendly coming to the Nintendo Switch. Because right now there's a lot of single-player shooters, like Splatoon is only single-player. There's no split-screen. But if a split-screen shooter came to the Switch, I want to relive those GoldenEye days. Remake GoldenEye for the Nintendo Switch. There you go.
And what's your greatest accomplishment in gaming?
Oh my gosh. I beat Super Mario RPG. I think I went back one day and finally beat Chrono Trigger, which was amazing. And playing Dark Souls was a really tough accomplishment. But I think my greatest accomplishment was recently I was playing an online adventure game called Warframe. And there's one level that people just can't beat. It was just really, really difficult. I spent about 3 hours just constantly replaying the level and trying to figure out the best way to do it. And finally, by like a 4-second give, beat the boss before the entire level shut down. And I was just like, I dropped the controller and I was like, yeah! It was great.
Well, there you go. So if you, like Connor, who sent that question last week, want to find stuff out about us, like what we just learned about Pixel here, we can tell you how to do that.
And I think I've dated myself with all the Super Nintendo game references. All right, so let's take a look. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, boys and germs, ladies and germs, if you want to contact the show with a questione, or an idea for an episode, I mean, we do listen, you can send us an email to
batjarpodcast@gmail.com.
Or you can tweet at us, the lovely bird. The bird is the word at
the Bat Cookie Jar.
Yeah, we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify now. And recently added.
Yeah, we've just started uploading some of our episodes to YouTube.
YouTube!
So if you are one of those people that listens to audio podcasts on YouTube, we've got you covered.
Yeah, no, like if you do those, like listen, I'm assuming there's going to be a few people who are just going to have that in the background, but yeah, we'll see. Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, stitch together that narrative.
Yes.
Good
job.
I was trying to get there. SoundCloud, get your head out of the cloud, get your feet on the ground, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're probably there. If we're not there, tell us. Like, we added YouTube, so pretty sure we can add more. Share our post on Facebook, though. That's a huge thing. If you really like the Bad Jar podcast, just be like, hey, there's these two nerdy guys, and they're kind of funny sometimes.
I'm a geek.
There's these two geeky guys. They correct each other about being geeks. And if you like to hear about these subjects, listen to them. And that's huge for us.
Yeah. Someone asked me, how do I promote your show the best? Honestly, it seems like the best things you can do are subscribe in whatever platform you use.
Yep.
To write reviews for us if the platform you use
reviews are huge. Actually, it changes you from being like 10,000th because no one has reviewed you to like the top 1,000.
Yeah,
like that's a huge jump.
Take the time to write a review for us, even if it's a bad review. If you want to like criticize us, we'll take it.
It will show up. Like it'll help. And like our page, because we want everyone to just party hard in the Bad Jar.
Yeah.
But the reverb on the Bad Jar is really bad, so we're gonna do one of those. Have you ever been to an iPod party?
No.
So everyone has an MP3 player, and you start playing the same song at the same time, and everyone puts their earbuds in, and you start dancing. And, everyone's dancing to the same music, but it's nice on the neighbors because the music doesn't get out of your earbuds.
I've been to clubs where it's a headphone disco. So everyone's wearing a wireless headset, and you can choose between two DJs.
Nice.
So you could be dancing with somebody who's listening to an entirely different song.
How was that? How was that experience?
It was interesting. And then I was there once, like, as a frosh guide.
Nice.
And so I'm just standing around in a quiet room when all these people are dancing. It was the funniest thing you'll ever see.
I've got to see if there's one of those at the city. I'd love to try that out.
Didn't get to go to the other side.
Dun dun dun.
We don't speak
the French land.
We don't speak the name.
We don't speak the name. Cut the mic. Oh God, they're coming. They're breaking down the door. And that was the last of the Bad Jar podcast.
Oh boy. So we're not going to go into the Bad Jar. I'm sure that Bad Jar feels neglected at this point because we have not. I don't think we've pulled a topic out of the Bad Jar in over 2 months. But there's just been so many things happening.
A lot to talk about. Like, there's a lot going on in the geek community. Like, really, really cool stuff. Tabletop games are still exploding. They're actually, as much as I hate Big Bang Theory, they're coming out with a D&D episode that has Will Wheaton and Joe Magliarmi. I can't say his last name. Basically, he's a big Hollywood actor who
Manganiello,
there you go, who's been doing a lot of work with like sick kids and stuff, playing D&D with them. And he's just like, he's a big super fan of D&D. And I love seeing tabletop games getting the respect they deserve because, like, if you are a family that has like younger kids, or especially young boys, they love adventure and they love spending time with their parents. Play tabletop games with them. It's such a good way to find out how their mind works because how they react to situations as their character might tell you what they want from their life or how they feel, what they feel is lacking in their own life. And you can use that as a good means of communication. So if you don't know how, ask around. I'm sure you have friends who love tabletop games. But if you have younger kids, or even if you have full grown-up kids that you want to spend some time with, see if any of them are into D&D. Like, it's a really good family bonding experience. I highly recommend it.
Next week, I'll have to ask you about the whole Ultra Instinct Shaggy thing.
Oh, yeah, that'll be great. But tune back in for find out how Shaggy is the most powerful. Everyone is dead. Shaggy is. Everyone in the world is dead. We are just a projection of Shaggy's power.
Anyway, next week there is a new movie coming out called The Lego Movie: The Second Part.
The second part, not Lego Movie 2. This is the second part.
Yeah, because it's like the Lego parts.
I'm gonna go cry.
Early reviews show it to be very, very good.
Nice.
And I really loved the first Lego movie. I loved the Lego Batman movie, so I'm pretty hype.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I forgot that it was already out, so I was just like rushing to text, be like, all right, when can we go see this?
So there you go. So come back to the Bad Jar podcast next week when we reassemble. We master build the experience of seeing the new Lego movie.
Yep.
And until that time, I'm Average Joe.
And I'm Pixel Patch.
Catch you on the flip side.
Brick by brick.
You got to say your actual tagline.
Oh, 1 pixel at a time.